This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Travelers are stranded in South Africa after new COVID variant sparks global fears. South Africa's Aspen ramps up production of COVID vaccines and anesthetics as the country scrambles to deal with Omicron variant. Welcome to Africa Live on CGTN with me, Beatrice Marshall, in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program, Algerians vote in early local elections. And an entrepreneur in Ghana unveils user-friendly motorbikes. We begin in South Africa, where travelers have lined up at airports to exit South Africa following countries including the UK, US, Canada, Japan and Australia imposing travel restrictions. The discovery of a new coronavirus variant called Omicron has sparked fear and caused panic. The World Health Organization says Omicron is potentially more contagious than previous variants of the disease. The COVID-19 variant has been detected in South Africa, Belgium, Botswana, Israel and Hong Kong. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to hold a meeting on Saturday to discuss the new variant in Johannesburg's OR Tambo International Airport. Travelers are trying to make it back to their respective countries before borders are shut.
Well, I'm on a business trip. My trip back was supposed to be yesterday, so that was the plan anytime and anyway. So I'm leaving today because the flight has been cancelled yesterday. So I'm flying back and I'm not really worried. I know I have to go in quarantine for 14 days. That's how it is. There's nothing we can do.
Main concern, I'm not going to get back to England before 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, which is looking more and more likely. And I feel very sad for the people here as well, going back on the red list again, and who knows for how long, not being able to see family. You know, it's been 3 years I saw my sister, the family.
I'm not happy with the situation because I booked my flight on time. Everything was on time. Now I'm inconvenienced because I had to be at work tomorrow, but then they canceled the flight. After cancelling the flight, if I arrive in the UK, because I'm quarantining in Frankfurt, if I arrive in the UK after 4 p.m., I have to quarantine in a hotel on my cost for 10 days. So I don't have the money, I don't have the £2,000 to quarantine in the hotel.
Well, less than 2 months after being removed from the United Kingdom's red list, South Africa has again been red listed. The move by the UK follows the announcement by South African scientists on Thursday of the detection of a new COVID-19 variant. South Africa's government and the tourism sector have called this temporary ban a knee-jerk reaction by the UK government. CGTN's Elisa Njamela has more.
In addition to South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, Namibia and Zimbabwe have been included in the list of countries that the United Kingdom has temporarily banned flights from. The news of the temporary ban has been met with shock by the government and the tourism sector here in South Africa.
It is not just a huge setback, it's disastrous, it's catastrophic. The implications go way beyond the supposed temporary banning of flights, commercial and private flights between South Africa and the United Kingdom. This is now spread like wildfire, and almost on an hourly basis, we're getting updates of more and more countries that are closing their borders for travel between South Africa and themselves. And whilst one was speaking of temporary, you know, we're going to have a medium to long-term damage to our brand, which is devastating, and the timing couldn't be worse. We are about to enter what is deemed to be our peak season, specifically for international travel.
The tourism industry is still trying to recover from the previous travel ban to South Africa. South Africa's Department of International Relations says the UK's decision is premature and seemingly rushed, as even the World Health Organization is yet to advise on the next steps. The Association of Southern African Travel Agents agrees.
At the end of the day, this isn't about this variant having been should I say, started in South Africa. The fact of the matter is, it was our laboratories who were the first to identify this variant. Why? Because we have some of the best laboratory testing in terms of viruses and strains in the world. So the fact of the matter is, this virus could have started anywhere. We were just the first to identify it. This is the first point. Therefore, the placing of restrictions on South African travel makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. To the best of our knowledge, there's no reason to assume that the existing vaccinations cannot protect people against the new strain. And quite frankly, making decisions like this is a knee-jerk reaction without having all the scientific data at hand.
The ban has brought on a lot of frustration for those who had already booked to travel to the UK and other countries that have put South Africa on the red list. Davina Davies had already booked flights for herself and her family to see her mother-in-law, who they had not seen since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Disappointed, well, devastated. I'm not the only one feeling devastated. I have seen so many people on the Facebook group, just some people are literally in tears because they've had plans to immigrate. And so everything, well, that threw a spanner in the works. And many had plans to spend, the Christmas with their loved ones, whom they haven't seen in years. So we are devastated. We're not sure what's lying ahead. We haven't cancelled our flights. We haven't done anything like that. We're just hoping to see what's going to happen in the next week or two.
Derek Hackman, on the other hand, was due to travel to Brazil.
Very disappointed. It is, it's the traveling for holiday. It's different when you're traveling with a purpose, which was our purpose. It's a holiday, but it's to see family that we haven't seen for a long time. So having that in mind, that you might not be able to fly for some time again, it is frustrating and it's upsetting.
The new variant has been identified in 22 positive cases here in South Africa. Possible cluster outbreaks in the country's economic hub, the Gauteng province, are under investigation. The International Relations Department has issued a statement saying the government has already started engaging with all the countries that have imposed a travel ban with a view to persuade them to reconsider. Yolisa Njamela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
To Algeria now, where the country's Prime Minister Ayman Ben Abderrahmane has cast his ballot. The North African nation is holding municipal and provincial council elections. CGTN's Nokutula Shabalala with the details.
Algeria's ballot is taking place a year ahead of schedule, following a constitutional referendum. The referendum is widely seen as an olive branch from Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboun's government to the pro-democracy movement known as Hirak.
It's a duty and I have to do it, like I have always done. It's a duty I have to vote and we have to vote. We shouldn't only ask for our rights, we must fulfill our duties as well. Rights and duties go together.
Authorities are still struggling to quell the protest movement 2 years after mass demonstrations forced former President Abdelaziz Bouteflika to step down in Algeria's biggest political crisis.
We hope that there will be wide popular participation and that the selection will be made in accordance with the specifications of competence and integrity, and in accordance with what is required and what citizens want achieved from positive change and real change, so that we can all build the new Algeria.
Over 115,000 candidates are running for municipal councils, and about 18,900 people are vying for state council seats. Residents, however, hope that these elections will be peaceful, free and fair. Nokutula Shabalala, CGTN.
The Egyptian Senate has approved a new law on the rights of the country's 7 million senior citizens. The law proposes all forms of social care and decent life benefits to these citizens. A report drafted ahead of the report says citizens who do not receive a retirement pension will be entitled to receive monthly financial assistance. Yasser Hakim has more.
Rabia Mustafa is a 72-year-old grandfather. Out of work with no pension, he receives a $29 monthly allowance from the Ministry of Social Solidarity.
I get 450 Egyptian pounds. They're not enough. Everything here is expensive. My electricity bills alone are 500 Egyptian pounds. We should have privileges in hospitals, for instance. That's what we ask for, to be treated like the rest. Like employees who have health insurance and other privileges. For instance, they want a lot of money to treat my stricken knees.
Aware of their difficulties, the Senate approved a raft of measures to ease life for senior citizens, including the right for social welfare assistance and free healthcare services.
This segment is very important in our society. There are about 7 million seniors, and statistics say they will increase to 27 million by 2050. The law will guarantee a number of rights, whether in social protection, social welfare, rights in home care and institutional care. We also introduced punishments on those who violate these rights.
The draft law stipulates free access to entertainment and sports facilities. Seniors with special needs will be entitled to a companion to provide all services. Pensions and nursing homes will also be offered. Though a budget has not been set by authorities, officials are promising hundreds of millions of dollars to implement this law.
The state will establish a seniors fund that will be financed by several entities to guarantee the implementation of the clauses in the law. The fund will cover costs of the pensions, the seniors' homes, as well as companions for seniors. The state is obliged to implement this law to guarantee a decent and stable life for this segment.
Hearing about the new law, Rabia Mustafa feels optimistic.
It's very nice, but I hope it's implemented. It will make more people happy and comfortable. It will solve many people's problems, not just mine. Many people have barely enough to eat. It will make life better.
The Senate bill is now waiting for presidential ratification before being put into force by the first half of 2022. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
Senegal is set to host the China-Africa Cooperation Forum beginning on Monday. Speaking ahead of the forum and during the CMG Media Forum, Senegalese Minister of Culture and Communication Abdoulaye Diop says the cooperation between China and Senegal goes back a long way, promoted by respective heads of states under the initial push of Leopold Senghor and Mao Zedong. Let's have a look.
The Executive Cultural Cooperation Program that the two parties have just stabilized will be signed at the next session of the Great Joint Commission for Cooperation between Senegal and China, and will further boost our exchanges in all cultural subsectors. In other words, the Dakar Forum will be a great moment for meetings and exchanges. It will be a privileged moment to strengthen cooperation between China and Africa through the economic, social and cultural potentials of African countries and China.
Au travers des potentialités économiques, sociales et culturelles des pays d'Afrique et de la Chine.
Now, as South Africa scrambles to deal with Omicron, a new COVID-19 variant of concern, leading drug maker Aspen is ramping up production of vaccines and anesthetics. The pharmaceutical giant has big plans to produce jabs for every person in Africa. It's also launched the biggest anesthetics production facility on the continent, which will boost stocks and scale up South Africa's capability as a sterile manufacturer. CGTN's Julie Shire reports.
Africa's poor pharmaceutical manufacturing capabilities slowed down the continent's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and left most of its population vulnerable to the virus.
The biggest learning from this COVID pandemic for the continent has been that local capacity solve local problems. So in the midst of any crisis or when you depend on other people, they're going to look after themselves first. So localization has become a critical element, localization of pharmaceuticals and vaccines become critical on the continent.
Aspen was the only African drugs maker to locally produce Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccines at its Eastern Cape plant. So far, 120 million single-shot jabs have been filled and finished.
8 or 9% has gone to Europe. The remainder, which is in excess of 90%, has gone both to the African continent and South Africa. We are expanding to the second phase, phase 2, which is in Q1, early Q2 next year, where we will expand to a region of 450 million doses. And then we've got an expansion plan thereafter to take us to the 1.3 billion eventually by 2023-24 financial year.
Aspen has always been at the forefront of battling health crises. Production of life-saving antiretroviral medicine positioned South Africa as a leader in tackling HIV. It's further enhancing those capabilities with a $200 million investment, bringing anesthetic production, jobs and skills back home to South Africa.
That investment now has positioned Quebec as a very important and one of the biggest manufacturing hubs for general anesthetics in the world. We of course have commenced production now. This is production for South Africa and global markets. South Africa will consume a very small part of what we produce in South Africa, 5% or less, and the majority of what we produce will be for export markets.
Aspen's move to boost its products is part of a continental vision to strengthen pharmaceutical manufacturing and reduce Africa's dependence on imports, which could mean the difference between life and death. Julie Shah, CGTN, Cape Town, South Africa.
You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead on the program. Egypt's beekeepers raise awareness about the benefits of honey. And an entrepreneur in Ghana unveils user-friendly advice.
So this is it. I'm just about to be shot.
The little tents here, bottles are being thrown as they do so.
There are about 3 critical bridges here in Malawi. That's one of them. We're going to cross that bridge.
As you can see behind me, police forces
who are replying with gas. Gas just came in.
Tear gas. So it's all begun now.
Divisions leading the charge into West Mosul have brought us here.
Just got to be careful here with some gunshots.
This is where most of the fighting has been concentrated.
This is the front line now after 9 days of fighting.
We're about 2 to 3 kilometers from the front
clear
line.
view of this front line position.
The Egyptian capital, Cairo, is hosting its annual Honey Festival. The 4-day event will bring together 100 honey producers from across the region to create awareness among the public about the benefits of honey and the different types of honey found there. There will also be a forum to discuss bee farming. Here's CGTN's Adel Mahroui with more details.
Cairo residents excitedly joined the 3rd Honey Festival. This is a unique event that brings together producers and consumers so as to create awareness about bee products.
Actually, it's my first time to attend the Honey Festival. I had a friendship with one of the sellers here, so I came to see the products, and at the same time I took a trip over the other producers to take a look on the honey bee products, and it's really interesting. A lot of products are available here. You get the chance to compare and choose the best out of them. So this is a very good opportunity for whoever wants to look for the best offers, the highest discounts.
The festival, however, is not only about selling honey. It's a platform to display the newest products and the latest developments in the industry.
This year we have new honey products that have 0 saccharose. The honey comes from flowers that grow organically, and we started to decrease the level of saccharose in the honey using certain technologies which makes honey safer for people with diabetes and for those who are on diet.
Egyptian honey producers created this event largely for the local market, yet the festival has started to attract producers from the Middle East.
I always come to this festival because it is useful in terms of exchange of knowledge. Honey is not just about production. Packaging techniques are also very important, like how to prepare your display for fairs. The lectures and forums are very helpful as well when it comes to issues like bee diseases and their cures.
Egypt is known for producing many kinds of honey. The most common are marjoram, nigella, clover, citrus, sidr and caraway. Producers say there is still huge potential to grow.
The visitors this year, I think, are more than those at previous editions of the festival. The number of producers has also grown, and I see my competitors are doing great work. I hope that the festival would encourage businessmen to invest in honey production. Bees are the driving forces of agriculture. They are the most important part of the agricultural cycle. The government is launching new cultivation projects that will need bees.
Egyptian studies suggest that citizens here consume as little as 200 grams of honey a year. Europeans' honey intake, on the other hand, is 10 times that amount. And this is a promising indication to both how much domestic sales could grow and how much honey could be exported. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
A Ghanaian innovator, Sumaila Ibrahim, is helping disabled people in the country with their mobility by building motorbikes that are user-friendly for them. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra.
Ibrahim Sumaila has been fixing motorbikes for more than a decade. He's now reconstructing bikes for disabled people.
I changed the back tire to 2 tires, and because he cannot use his legs for the brakes and the gear, I changed the gear to the handle. I do a resting platform for the leg to rest on, and I also bring the back brake to the handle.
3% of Ghana's 30 million people have a form of disability, according to government's data. Many have difficulties moving around, which can mean missing out on opportunities, including jobs. Paul Lawe is one of those using Ibrahim's innovations to make life easier.
I use the bike to go to work and also run personal errands. It really helps me move about freely because it's easy to use.
While this disability user-friendly motorbike has proved efficient, it has yet to be licensed, so Ibrahim cannot produce it in commercial quantities.
I know with time and with support, I can go to an extent of going into to check for approval, because already I'm using such motorbikes, and me doing something for a disabled man, I have to cross-check.
Ibrahim also produces other vehicles from scratch. This motorbike is one of his latest inventions.
Ibrahim says he used scraps to build this cart. It took him about a month to get it ready for a road test, and it works on a 10-horsepower engine.
As Ibrahim gets more creative with his innovations, he hopes to build more user-friendly vehicles for the disabled and train other young people in the craft. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
In your sports news, we start with the latest in South Africa, where the COVID-19 Omicron variant has wreaked havoc to sports in South Africa following a travel ban imposed to contain the new strain of the disease. This has forced visiting sports persons to scramble for flights out of South Africa to avoid infection and quarantine measures in their countries. CGTN CS Duplessis has more.
Just like the gloomy weather that is covering several parts of South Africa, a gloomy atmosphere looms over sports fans and the public in general. The news of travel bans from various countries, including the United Kingdom, the EU, Middle East and the USA, has come as a sickening punch to the gut to many who had hoped that sport had returned for the foreseeable future. However, as soon as the shock subsided, it was replaced with panic as sports teams, athletes and administrators scrambled for flights back to their respective countries. Rugby teams involved in the United Rugby Championship boarded flights back to the UK and Italy, leaving the South African outfits involved set to be without action for at least 2 months as a result. At the same time, 18 golfers meant to play in the Joburg Open withdrew and headed to the airport. The SA Open has been moved to another venue, while other tournaments have been cancelled altogether. The one-day international series between South Africa and the Netherlands is in jeopardy and could well be called off later today. The Junior Women's Hockey World Cup, set for Potchefstroom next month, has already been postponed, along with the Cape Town World 7 Series event for the second year running. It's not good news for sport in the country at a time when limited fans were allowed at stadia and there was a sense that some sort of normality had returned. Unfortunately, that feeling has been short-lived and the gloom has returned as the global pandemic throws sport into turmoil once again and reminds us that the fight to bring the coronavirus to an end is far from over. CS du Plessis, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And still on African football, embattled Kenyan FA President Nick Mwendwa has been arrested in Nairobi on Friday, a day after he was released by a court when the prosecution failed to press corruption charges against him. Football Kenya Federation CEO Barry Otieno says reasons for his latest arrest have not been given. On Thursday, Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Wandia Nyamu ordered that Mwendwa's $35,555 cash bail be refunded to him after the prosecution opted to close its file following the lapse of 7 days given by the court to press charges against the suspended FKF administrator. Mwendwa was first arrested on the 12th of November and taken to the Criminal Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters for questioning over how the Federation has spent over $4.4 million of government money since he took over the Federation in 2016. And some news from the English Premier League now, and Mikel Arteta has praised his side's patience as they moved right into the mix for a top 4 place with a 2-0 Premier League win over Newcastle United on Saturday. It had looked like being a frustrating afternoon for Arsenal as they sought to rebound from last week's 4-0 hammering at Liverpool, a result that ended a 10-game unbeaten run. But Bukayo Saka slotted home in the 56th minute and Gabriel Martinelli sealed the points 10 minutes later, shortly after coming on to replace the injured Saka. Victory moved Arsenal level on 23 points with fourth-placed West Ham United